Hi there, you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now with me, Shriyanti Singh and Priyanka Gopal. And over the next 1 hour, we get you news and updates from within the country as well as across the globe, tell you which stocks you should be keeping an eye on, and tell you what the brokerages are saying as well. But first things first, let's take a look then at the US markets, and it looks like the post-election rally has really waned off, Priyanka.
Absolutely, Shriyanti. Morning. The first thing what we need to watch out is after 10%, nearly 10% of correction in Nifty, CLSA increasing its allocation to India to 20% now, and Moody's forecasting 7% plus GDP growth forecast. Is our FIs going to come back this week or not? Are we in for a rebound rally, yes or not? Yes, very correctly pointed out, Wall Street. There we felt that, the post-election rally, that has taken a breather. In fact, all three indices, they have taken a hit last week. US market fell more than 2% if you talk about last week. Investors are anticipating a lot of cues now. Federal Reserve may slow its pace of policy easing. This is one of the cue which was weighing heavily on the markets. But then let's see that what did markets do on Friday exactly. Dow, S&P and Nasdaq, all three fell. In fact, US 10-year yields, they jumped on hawkish words when Fed Chairman Jeremy Powell spoke about the US markets and about the rate of pace of rate going ahead. This all weighed on the market. In fact, Russell, if you look at Russell 2000, which is a small cap index, that one also fell nearly 5%. Nearly 3% last week. In fact, it has already increased by 8%, and after falling for 3%, it is still up 5% in the month of November. But then yes, US market did came off from its all-time high, and last week we saw a little breather on US markets. 10-year yield, they jumped on the hawkish comments from Jeremy Powell. But what about the crude?
Well, absolutely. Jerome Powell's commentary was definitely in focus. And when you take a look at crude prices as well, it wasn't a good week coming in for crude prices either. So when you take a look at crude oil futures, you're looking at losses coming in for the week as a looming supply glut, as well as a stronger greenback was something that weighed on crude prices. So when you take a look at US crude oil, you're looking at a loss of nearly 5% this week. In fact, the week gone by, and when you take a look at Brent, that has also declined nearly 4%. So when you take a look at WTI, you're looking at price levels around $67 per barrel. So a downtick of just about $1.6 coming in there, or 2.5% is what you're looking at. In terms of the downtick for WTI, now US crude oil it was losing just about more than 6%, at least on a year-to-date basis. And when you take a look at Brent's January contract, that's the one you should be looking at. $71 levels is what you're looking at there as well. Downtick of $1.5 or 2% coming in there. And year-to-date, the global benchmark has also lost nearly 8%. Now, stronger greenback, like I mentioned, also hangs over the market as the greenback has surged in the wake of President-elect Donald Trump's election victory. That was something that we were looking at. And it was, of course, OPEC cutting its guidance for the fourth time. That is also something that we were keeping a very close eye on. And moving on, then let's also take a quick look at gold prices then, because gold prices did post their biggest weekly decline in over 3 years as expectations of less aggressive interest rate cuts by the US Federal Reserve lifted the dollar, denting the allure for bullion among investors. So that is what you were looking at. And prices did fall more than 4% so far last week, touching their lowest since September 12th on Thursday. So those were the kind of levels that we were looking at when it comes to both oil and gold, Priyanka.
All right, absolutely. But the big story today is going to be how are metals going to react, especially the aluminium counters. Aluminium prices surged after China said it would cancel export tax rebates, fueling worries that a heavy flow of shipments abroad may be curbed. Ashesha joins in with more details on that. Ashesha, give us a sense of what is happening.
Well, absolutely. Aluminium prices on an intraday basis on LME jumped as much as 8.5% in Friday's trading session, and they ended nearly 5.5% higher to end about that $2,620 per ton mark. This after China said that they will be cancelling export rebates on export of copper and aluminium, and this was a big trigger why copper and aluminium prices on London Metal Exchange shot up on Friday. Remember, aluminium prices shot up as much as 5.5%. Copper did not react as much, but despite that it ended nearly 0.5% higher. The fact that China is cancelling rebates on export of copper and aluminium means that global supply of copper and aluminium is expected to hinge higher, and on account of that prices of both copper and aluminium are expected to inch higher. This is positive for domestic aluminium manufacturers, the likes of Hindalco, Nalco and Vedanta. However, it will be negative for aluminium consuming companies, the likes of auto companies, construction companies and packaging companies. So big news coming in from China, where they've said that they will be cancelling rebate on exports of copper and aluminium, and this was the reason copper and aluminium prices on London Metal Exchange shot up in Friday's trading session.
Right, then moving on to some important commentary that we're tracking this morning. Then Fed Chair Jerome Powell believes strong US economic growth will allow policymakers to take their time in deciding how far and how fast to lower interest rates. He said, and I quote, "The economy is not sending any signals that we need to be in a hurry to lower rates," end quote. And in an upbeat assessment then of current conditions, the central bank leader also called domestic growth by far the best of any major economy in the world. Specifically, he also said that the labor market is holding up well despite disappointing job growth in October that he largely attributed to storm damage in the southeast and labor strikes as well. Now on the question of inflation, then he cited progress that has been broad-based, that is what he called it, noting that Fed officials also expected to continue to drift back toward the central bank's 2% goal.
All right, in the meanwhile, Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago President Austin Goolsbee, he feels that the US Central Bank will likely end up cutting the policy rate by another 1/4 percentage point this year and a full percentage point further next year. As Fed policymakers projected in September, remember the median view of that dot plot was for that the policy rate to end this year at 4.4%, that is a 1/4 percentage point below where it is today, and to be 3.4% by the end of next year.
Alright, then moving on, Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba posted higher than expected quarterly earnings on the back of cloud operations growth, but revenue was lower than expected. Revenue up 5% on a year-on-year basis, undershot analyst estimates. Meanwhile, when you take a look at the net income, you're looking at an uptick of 63% year over year, beating the expectations of analysts polled by Visible Alpha as well.
Okay, in the meantime, Chinese leader Xi Jinping, he met for the last time with US President Joe Biden, but was already looking ahead to President-elect Donald Trump and his America First policies, saying Beijing is ready to work with a new US administration. During their talks on the sidelines of the annual Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, Xi Jinping cautioned that a stable China-US relationship was critical not only to the two nations but also the future and destiny of humanity. Without mentioning Trump's name, Xi appeared to signal his concern that the incoming president's protectionist rhetoric could send the US-China relationship into another valley.
Alright, then those were all the global news and updates to go with your morning cup of coffee. Time for a very quick breather on the show. When we come back, we'll take a look at how the Asian markets are faring, so don't go anywhere.
The updates, this one coming in from Delhi. Thick layer of smoke blinds national capital. AQI inches closer to 500 now. Stage 4 of graded response action plan has been invoked. All construction as well as demolition activities to remain shut in the city. Schools have been closed except for classes 10th and 12th. Nikhil Lakhwani joins in with the latest update on this. Nikhil.
Starting from today, the Grab 4 has been imposed. There are certain new restrictions which are going to be imposed. By and large, the major restrictions are going to be about the entry of the truck here in the capital city, and only those who are running on the CNG or those who are operating in the essential categories, only they are allowed to operate. Otherwise, there will be a strict visual on the entry of those particular trucks. Delhi Chief Minister Atishi, she yesterday announced that except for class 10th and 12th, the mode is going to shift from physical class to online class. So all the other classes are going to remain in the online mode. That means the schools are not going to run until further orders. And other state government which are part of the NCR region, they have also been given the power to take a call whether they want to close the school although the Gurugram, Faridabad, Noida, Ghaziabad, they have not taken any of the call yet, but this is something which the powers have been given from the side of the CAQM directly to the state government. And also the companies have been advised, the central government have also been told if they want, they can run with the 50% capacity. The companies have been given the mandate that if the option is available, they should also think about the work from home facility as well. But this is the picture yet again, Nivedna, which we are going to show you on the screen. This is the fresh pictures which are speaking for themselves. And this is the highest ever pollution so far, particularly for this season. And Graph 4 has already been imposed. And remember, last time around when meeting took place at the Gopal Rai's residence, he announced that if there is need be to implement Graph 4, then they are also going to think about the artificial rain as well. And now that the Graph 4 finally comes into place, we are awaiting a word from the side of the minister. Today a crucial meeting, another crucial meeting, so to say, is going to be held yet again, which is going to be chaired by Gopal Rai, who is the Environment Minister.
Alright, thanks Nikhil for getting us that update. We could see a thick layer of smog behind you in even the Akshardham region as well. But moving on then, ahead of the much-awaited assembly election in Maharashtra, Union Minister Nitin Gadkari spoke exclusively to Times Network. Gadkari responded to how few BJP leaders have distanced themselves from the Ek Hai to Safe Hai pitch raised by PM Modi, and also clarified how the Dharma Yudh and vote jihad narratives then have been misinterpreted. Let's go across and listen in to this mega exclusive then.
देखिए, इसका गैर अर्थ आप लगाते हो हर चीज का. सम ऑफ द सेक्शन इन मीडिया वो एंटी मुस्लिम अर्थ लगाता है. हमारा कहना, हम सब भारतीय हैं और इसमें हिंदू हो, जैन हो, क्रिश्चियन हो, सिख हो, मुसलमान हो, उनकी उपासना पद्धति भले अलग अलग हो, पर हम सब एक हैं. और इसलिए हम भारतीय के रूप में हमारा इतिहास, संस्कृति और विरासत एक है और इस देश के लिए हमको सबको मिलकर काम करना है. और जो आतंकवाद है और विशेष रूप से इंटरनल और एक्सटर्नल सिक्योरिटी है, उसको हमको उसकी रक्षा करनी है और आतंकवाद, नक्सलवाद के खिलाफ लड़ना है. और इसलिए इन सब के खिलाफ लड़ना होगा तो हमको एक रहना पड़ेगा. ये उसका बॉर्डर अप्रोच में, ब्रॉड अप्रोच में उसका फीलिंग है.
Sir, your politics is always about secularism and it's always about people, inclusivity, but that is not aligning with your contemporaries in the state, because what we can understand is that there is a lot of talks regarding vote jihad specifically. There's talks regarding Dharma Yudh. Why it is necessary to talk about Dharma Yudh just for the election?
The true meaning of all this word. Dharma means kartavya. Dharma never it means that ki even Supreme Court define Hindutva as a way of life. And what is the meaning of secularism? In the English dictionary meaning, the meaning of secularism is not dharma nirapekshata. It is sarva dharma samabhav. So always when the people want to misinterpret the things, and some of the media, they want to create complications and divide the society, they are making their interpretation with their own ways. That is to be a big problem. We are actually in our 67 scheme from the central government, even in Maharashtra, in every scheme, nothing there is we written that the scheduled caste and Muslim cannot apply for that. सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका प्रयास और सबका विकास.
सर, फिर वोट जिहाद की बात कहाँ से आ जाती है?
वो उसने कुछ भाषा बोलते समय कुछ शब्दों का उपयोग किया. वोट जिहाद कभी हो ही नहीं सकता ना. ये जो उनका कहने का भाव था वो अलग था. That there are some section of people in media, in politics, every time they want to paint it BJP as anti-minority because of vote bank politics, and they are trying their level best to create confusion in the mind of the people. That is the reason.
Okay, so we heard Union Minister Nitin Gadkari talking, keeping the pace with the election updates only, with just days left for polling in Maharashtra. My colleague Srushti Atkare, she caught up with former Maharashtra CM, BJP's Nagpur Southwest candidate Devendra Fadnavis. Listen into this conversation.
How is the feeling on ground? How hopeful are you?
देखिए, ये तो मेरा घर है और यहाँ पर मैं 5 बार चुनकर आया हूँ, 6वीं बार लड़ रहा हूँ. बहुत काम किया है, लोगों से पारिवारिक संबंध है, इसलिए यहाँ पर मैं केवल 3 घंटे के लिए आया, लेकिन लोग बहुत ज्यादा मतों से मुझे चुनकर देंगे.
जागो हिंदू वीडियो रिलीज किया है, अपोजिशन कह रही है कि ये कम्युनल पॉलिटिक्स है.
पहली बात तो यह है कि मैंने ऐसा कोई वीडियो रिलीज नहीं किया। मैंने कोई वीडियो रिलीज नहीं किया। हाँ, लोगों ने किया है, मैंने भी सुना है वीडियो। मेरा पुराना गाना है और उस गाने में ऑब्जेक्शनेबल क्या है? अगर हम कहते हैं जागे थे वीर शिवाजी, उसी की तरह जागो, गुरु गोविंद सिंह की तरह जागो, भगत सिंह की तरह जागो, अगर ऐसा कहते हैं तो उसमें गलत क्या है?
Alright, then from one big voice to another, then Times Network's Madhav Gopal Krishnan also caught up with Union Minister Piyush Goyal as well. Let's go across and listen in to what he then had to say.
I think the time has come where people, whether on national issues or state issues, have made up their mind that they want to get back the Mahayuti government, a double-engine government working together for a better future for every Maharashtrian.
So Uddhav Thackeray in the last 2-3 days has repeatedly said that, the election commission officials are checking only his chopper and not of, BJP leaders. Is there any truth in what Mr. Uddhav Thackeray is saying at all?
Madhav, of course, by now all of us, you have seen that in every election, these checks are very natural, necessary, and are conducted on everybody. The fact that Mr. Uddhav Thackeray has to trivialize the election so much, only to attack the election commission or allude narratives which are entirely untrue, clearly shows that they are despondent, they have given up, they are on the verge of losing, and they have no real substantive issues on the back of which they can fight this election.
All right, moving on. Now, let's go ahead and get you some more stories. Now, festive discounts brought autos back in the fast lane, with FADA reporting robust sales for two-wheelers, passenger as well as commercial vehicles during the festive season. Sumit Chaturvedi joins in with more details on this.
Well, around over 40-day festival period from October 3rd to November 3rd, India has bought over 12% more vehicles as compared to last year in this festival season. Well, festival season had festivals in October like Navratri, Dhanteras and Diwali also that fell in October. Well, it is also contributed mainly by discounts and pent-up demand in the car market, where around 6 lakh cars were sold during this period. However, in rural areas, there was good demand for two-wheelers as well. So it all shows that there is a demand available. There is a demand in the market, and it gained traction during festival season, which is considered as the best season of the year. However, FADA, the Federation of Automobile Dealers, they all are now pressurizing OEMs to lower the inventory levels so that they enter a new year with a new fresh perspective and new dealerships. They want inventory levels of around 21 days only.
All right, thanks Sumit for getting us that update from Motown. But moving on, then city gas distribution companies are the ones that will be in focus, as IGL as well as Mahanagar Gas announced further cuts when it comes to that domestic APM gas allocation. What then are the implications of these? Soumit Sarkar is joining by with all of those details.
Well, city gas distribution companies would remain in focus, especially IGL and Mahanagar Gas, given the fact that they have announced over the weekend that their APM gas allocation has been further cut by around 20% and 18% respectively. Now, domestic APM gas is the cheaper gas that is being made available to city gas distribution companies, with prices being capped at around $6.5 per MMBTU. Now, this is being done to promote the usage of gas in the country. Now, given the fact that the APM gas allocation has come down, the dependence of this city gas distribution companies on higher priced new well gas, difficult field gas or spot LNG prices will increase going forward. Now, if you see the APM gas prices are available at around $6.5 per MMBTU, while the gas from new wells, difficult fills and from spot market are available anywhere between $9 to $14 per MMBTU. Now, if they are not able to pass on this hike to consumers, then definitely the margins of the city gas distribution companies will take a big hit. Now, also do remember that this is the second time that we have seen such a big cut coming in when it comes to APM gas allocation. On October 16th also, city gas distribution companies had announced that they had seen a steep cut in the APM gas allocation by around 20% and again it has been cut by around 18 to 20% for IGL and MGL. Now, because of this cumulative both of APM gas allocation cut, the gas cost for city gas distribution companies has increased by around 5 to 5.5 rupees per SCM. Now, to pass on this increase in APM gas prices, they need to increase the CNG prices by at least or by around 9 rupees per kg, which is a significant hike that we could see coming in going forward. Now, analysts believe that this hike might come in, but not in one shot, but in a staggered manner. However, if price hike comes in, the volume could see an impact given the fact that CNG might be now less cheaper when compared to petrol and diesel, which means that the spread between CNG and petrol and diesel would come down further, but which could lead to a volume impact. So a clear conundrum that city gas distribution are facing, whether to maintain margins or to increase volume going forward.
All right, thanks so much, Somit, for breaking it down for us. Let's see what are the kind of implication on the stocks are in today's trading day. We should stay for a short break here. When we come back, we get you more buzzing stocks as well as the brokerage notes. Don't go anywhere.
सर इन्हें क्रिप्टो करके लाइफ सेट करनी है पर कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं है
कॉन्फिडेंस चाहिए हाँ सर
Right and early this morning, and Ria is standing by with just that. Ria, over to you.
Yes, good morning. So let's take a look at the stocks that are going to be in focus today. First up, we have Nazara Technology reporting their Q2 FY25 numbers. Now, quite a weak set coming in here. We've seen the revenue going up around 7% on a year-on-year basis. The EBITDA has declined by around 6%, coming in at 25 crores in this quarter. Even the margin has seen a contraction of 111 basis points, coming in at 7.9% in this quarter. Now, further on Nazara Technologies, they have approved the merger of the wholly owned subsidiary called Paperboat apps with the company, and they've also approved a preferential issue, so keeping an eye out on Nazara Tech. On the back of that, we also have Crompton Greaves reporting their numbers. Good set coming in here. The revenue has gone up around 6.5% on a year-on-year basis. We've also seen the net profit going up by around 28%, and the EBITDA has also gone up by around 16.5% on a year-on-year basis. Even on the margin side, we've seen an expansion of around 94 basis points, coming in at 10.7% in this quarter. Let's also talk about Glenmark Pharma, which has reported quite a good set of numbers. Revenue has gone up around 7% on a year-on-year basis. The net profit this time around has come in at 354 crores versus a loss of 201 crores. And even on the EBITDA side, we've seen an expansion of 54% on a year-on-year basis and a margin expansion of 536 basis points, coming in at 17.5% in this quarter. We also have Prestige Estates in focus today, since they have acquired around 22,135 square meters of land in Mumbai at a cost of around 291.5 crores. There's also ABB India in focus, since the company has received a warning letter from the Deputy General Manager of SEBI, since two designated persons for insider trading, so keeping an eye out on that. We also have Ultratech Cement in focus, since the board has approved a fundraise of up to rupees 3,000 crores, so keeping an eye out on all of these stocks today.
Okay, thanks very much, Ria, for all those stocks and the earnings behind these stocks. Now, Jinay is here. He'll get us all the key brokerage notes for the day today. Jinay, morning. Many counters and lot many counters. In fact, a lot of brokerage, foreign brokerages which has come in on auto space.
Well, definitely. First up, we have a curious note on Swiggy. They say that while Zomato and Swiggy may compete in a similar market, they may diverge significantly over next decade, just like Tencent and Alibaba did in China. Now, they're expecting the food delivery business, GOV, to achieve an 18% CAGR over FY24 to FY29. Also, they are seeing an 400 basis points margin improvement expectations for Swiggy, with EBITDA to touch about 4.7% by FY29, and the contribution margin is expected to touch 8.8% by FY29. Moving on consumers, Greaves consumer, we have a note by CLSA, who have maintained the outperformance rating with the target price of 500. Now, what they believe is that Q2 numbers were in line, the growth sustained, and we also saw a margin picking up in Q2. Now, they're expecting the medium-term visibility will be key for companies re-rating going ahead. Well, CLSA believes that there are several levers for companies to grow the lever as well. Moving on, Hero Motor will be in focus as we have Nomura's maintained buy rating with and have hiked the target price to 58.05. What they believe is that rural improvement is a key catalyst for the company. The Q2 was in line. There was a healthy earnings and as well as the margins improvement. However, the valuations and margins have further growth of improvement, and the rural growth which they have witnessed, seeing the signs of improvement, will remain key, which will support the sales of the company. And lastly, Muthoot Finance will be focused as Morgan Stanley have come up with a note. They have upgraded to equal weight rating and have hiked the target price to 1600. What they believe is an environment is getting better for Muthoot Finance. However, the structural problems, concerns still remain on Muthoot. What they say is that the high bad loan ratio on the non-gold business, the diversity will remain a key challenge for Muthoot going ahead in this segment.
Absolutely. Thanks, Janay, for that list of the counters that really made it to brokerage radar bright and early this morning. But moving on, then Honasan Consumer is the one to look out for because that has come out with a weaker than estimated quarter. When you take a look at the second quarter, you do have the profit after tax as well as EBITDA turning to loss. Higher than expected inventory correction was also something that was seen this quarter. In fact, we do have Snehi who's standing by with the earnings fine print. Snehi?
Well, yes, so if you take a look at the quarter two numbers coming in from Honasan Consumers, it's been a weak set coming this time. They have missed all the street expectations. Revenue is coming at 418 crores compared to 460 crores, which is down 9.3% on a year-on-year basis. EBITDA, there's a loss this time coming in at 29 crores versus an EBITDA of 46 crores this time last year. And they've also incurred a net loss on an overall basis of 18.5 crores compared to a profit of 29.5 crores this time last year. Another quarter to highlight to note is that during the quarter two, they received the NCLT nod for the merger of Just for Kids Service Private Limited and Fusion Cosmeceuticals with the company. So that's a highlight to keep in mind for them in quarter two. However, now when we talk about the con call highlights, what both Varun and Ghazal Alag had to say is that they've experienced a higher than expected inventory correction this time, which has weighed on their numbers. The increase in inventory of traded goods has led to an exceptional loss of 37.5 crores on the bottom line, and Honasan has introduced a revamped distribution approach that they call Project Neve in quarter 4 of FY24, which they've executed in this quarter. Now, this model focuses on transitioning to a direct distribution model in the top 50 cities and reducing its dependency on super stockists. Now, however, despite this, the inventory correction was due to a pocket of sub-distributors that the company had not taken into account. So that is something that has weighed into the earnings this time. It's led to an inventory impact of 63 crores and roughly a 70% loss in the gross margin. However, earlier the company had expected the impact to be between 40 and 50 crores, but it's come in at 63 crores this time. Inventory related provisions have further impacted the EBITDA margin by 10.7%, and with much of this transition already completed, Honasan expects momentum to gradually recover over the next few quarters. Varun Alag has also said that the company is going to rethink their strategy in 4 to 5 key areas. Now, while these was the numbers, quickly giving you a rundown on what brokerages are making of these numbers. Goldman Sachs has downgraded the stock to neutral from a buy rating, also cut the target price to 375 from 570. So it's a very steep cut coming in. They say that reset in Mamaearth pushes out the earnings trajectory. Quarter two revenue has declined, driven by the large pipeline inventory correction. There is a deterioration in the growth trajectory driven by the core Mamaearth brand as well. Long-term potential to ride the consumer shift towards science-based skincare remains intact, however, so that's something that they're liking, but repositioning will take time is what they're saying. So overall, weak set of numbers coming in, a miss across all fronts.
Okay, miss across on all fronts, and of course the shift in strategy which has impacted their inventory as well as impacted their margins heavily. Thanks very much, Snehi, for even getting the view on the what Goldman Sachs has to say on the stock. But then let's talk about Grasim. Grasim's second quarter was a miss. The management believes they are on track to achieve their 3-year revenue target as new businesses aid growth. Ashesha joins in with the highlights and of course the brokerage verdict on the same.
Well, yes, Grasim has reported a weaker than expected set of numbers, although revenues have risen by about 18% on a year-on-year basis and about 11% on a sequential basis. Revenue growth was on account of solid performance from their financial services segment as well as from specialty chemical segment. Remember, most of their new businesses, especially the paint business, also reported very strong set of numbers, and that aided revenue growth on a sequential and YOY basis. But as far as bottom line is concerned, it has clearly missed street estimates. Margins have contracted a whole lot. So EBITDA margins have come in at just 4.3%, which is a decline of about 500 basis points on a year-on-year basis and about 40 basis points on a sequential basis. And capex incurred for growing their paint business is the main reason why EBITDA margins have contracted this time around. Remember, as far as the paint business outlook is concerned, that continues to remain very positive. They incurred capex of about 8,500 crores up until now on paint business out of the total 10,000 crore target that they've set for the next few years. And they also say that they're on track to achieve $10 billion revenue in paint business over the next 3 years. Remember, this they had announced earlier this year, but they continue to maintain their guidance as far as their paints business is concerned. However, because earnings were lower than what the street was working with, Several brokerage houses have gone ahead and cut their estimates. So Motilal Oswal, for instance, has cut its EBITDA estimate for FY25 by as much as 12%, and Nuvama has cut its EBITDA guidance for the next 3 years by anywhere between 3 to 5%. So all in all, outlook continues to remain very strong, especially as far as Spain's business is concerned. However, for this quarter, earnings were on the weaker side, and hence several brokerage houses have gone ahead and cut their EBITDA estimates.
Alright then, thanks Ashesha for that update coming in, but let's get you some news from outside the world of stocks. Then US President Joe Biden has authorized the first use of US supplied long-range missiles by Ukraine for strikes inside Russia. Now Biden's decision is a major change in US policy, and the choice has divided his advisors, and a shift that comes 2 months before President-elect Trump gets the keys for the Oval Office as well, having voted to limit further support for Ukraine. Moving on then, Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in Rio de Janeiro to attend the 19th G20 Leaders Summit slated for November 18th and 19th. Now, this is the second leg of his 5-day trip to the three nations. The visit also holds importance as India, which hosted the summit last year, is part of the G20 Troika along with Brazil and South Africa. Moving on then, as Manipur reels under fear of violence back home, the political situation in the strife-torn state is also getting delicate. All 7 MLAs of Conrad Sangma's NPP have then withdrawn support from the Biren Singh government, citing its failure to manage the crisis and calm the tensions. Meanwhile, you do have Home Minister Amit Shah, who will be holding key review meeting in the national capital, even as forces have increased flag marches across the state as well.
All right, moving on, in a huge setback for Aam Aadmi Party ahead of the Delhi Assembly elections, Kailash Gehlot, who's a key figure in Delhi government, has quit the cabinet and resigned from the party. Gehlot has cited grave challenges AAP is facing as the key reason for his decision. Reports say that he would be joining BJP soon. Moving on, India captain Rohit Sharma is set to miss the first test against Australia in Perth. Pace spearhead Jasprit Bumrah also will lead the team in Rohit's absence, the first of the 5 tests in the border. Gavaskar Trophy will begin at the Optus Stadium on November 22nd, while the second test in Adelaide will start on December 6th.
Alright, then with that, we're completely timed out on this edition of Market Cafe on ET Now. From me, Shreyansi Singh, Priyanka Uppal, as well as the entire team that put this show together. Thank you so much for tuning in. But you don't go anywhere, because the market takes all of the action forward.